Happy Wednesday, everyone. I am Tiffany Service Gustafson, a digital strategist with BWG Connect, and we are a network and knowledge sharing group. We stay on top of the latest trends, challenges, whatever is shaping the digital landscape. We want to know and talk about it. We'll do at least 500 of these virtual events this year due to the increase in demand to better understand the digital space. And we'll also do at least 100 in-person small format dinners. So if you happen to live in a tier 1 city in the US, feel free to shoot us an email or check out our website, bwgconnect.com. We'd love to send you an invite. These dinners are typically 15 to 20 people having a discussion around a certain digital topic, and we always have a great time. We spend the majority of our time talking to brands. That's how we stay on top of the latest trends. We'd love to have a conversation with you, and you can drop me a line at Tiffany, Tiffany at bwgconnect.com, and we can get some time on the calendar. It's from these conversations we generate the topic ideas we know people want to learn about. And it's also where we gain our resident experts, such as Oro Commerce and Hammer Commerce, who's with us today. Anybody that we asked to teach the collective community has come highly recommended from multiple brands. So if you're ever in need of any recommendations within the digital space, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have a short list of the best, and we would love to provide that information to you. A few housekeeping items before we get started. First and foremost, we want this to be fun, educational, conversational. So drop as many questions, comments you have into the chat, the Q&A, whatever you prefer, or you can always email me at Tiffany at bwgconnect.com. So we will start here about 5 minutes after the hour. Rest assured, we're going to wrap up at least 5 to 10 minutes before the end of the hour to give you ample time to get to wherever you need to go next. So with that, let's rock and roll and start to talk about the 101 for B2B e-commerce, from basics to business impact. I'm going to kick it over to our panelists to give brief introductions on themselves, which would be so lovely, and then we will dive into the information. And then feel free, as we move along with the discussion, to keep adding your comments and questions into the chat, and we will get to them. So I will start with you, Itai, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we will move along to Jody and Matthew. Thank you so much for joining me all.
Thank you, Tiffany. So hi, everyone. Itai Braverman. I'm the VP of product of a B2B e-commerce platform called Oro Commerce. As part of my role, I would say in the last year, I will actually give a bigger background. So I've been with the product since we released it, and had the opportunity to work with many B2B customers. Enjoyed seeing different type of B2B use cases being implemented, both manufacturers and distributors and so on. And lately, after getting the role of VP of product, we really wanted to emphasize on how we can take, AI and really embed it in the core feature that we're now developing, and we'll be talking about it later today on the panel. So really, right now in the product, I'm leading not only new innovation, but those innovation that really touches AI with, and how we can take this and really leverage that to make things more efficient, sort of solve for B2B pain points that we're bumping into on a daily basis. So that was quickly about myself. By the way, I live in Florida, but I'm on the southeast side, so I'm on the safe zone. Maybe we'll get a tropical storm, but just for the team and the participants that are there, stay safe. And to you, Jody.
Yeah, thanks, Itai. And echoing what you said about everybody that's in the path of Milton, and just hoping everybody is safe and comes out the other side no worse for wear. So my name is Jody Pillard. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Hammer. We are a technology firm that's really focused on helping our clients with strategy, growth, and execution. And individually, I have a particular focus on automation, all forms of AI, and the practical applications for all those types of tools, and how we can really provide business benefits to our clients and their clients through the use of those tools. So that's my focus day to day. Matt?
My name is Matt Putnam. I am the managing director of the commerce division of White & Hammer. My day-to-day is really meeting with clients, understanding their requirements, and matching them to the service offerings at White & Hammer.
Excellent. Thank you all for the introductions. And again, questions, comments, put into the chat or the Q&A. So like I said, we talk to a lot of brands, over 10,000 brands a year here at BWG Connect. And the hot topic of the year has been AI. What does that mean? But I think what's even more interesting is looking at it from the B2B perspective, because a lot of times everybody wants to talk about direct to consumer. My background's in B2B, so I'm very passionate about this topic. Let's start with you, Jody. Like, why is AI important in today's business landscape when it comes to B2B?
Yeah, I think what may be helpful, Tiffany, to start with is just a foundation, a little bit of history of AI and what some of the different terms mean. We hear a lot of different terminology thrown out there. So a little bit of background. Although it might seem like AI just burst onto the scene suddenly about 2 to 3 years ago, the fact is artificial intelligence as a discipline has existed since the 1950s. And that is a really broad category that has many subsets, and I'll touch on a couple of them because I think they're relevant here. First, AI in general just means it's a field of computer science that is really trying to create intelligent machines that basically replicate or even exceed human intelligence. So that's a big category, and within that, pretty early on, maybe about 10 years in, came something called machine learning. And as the name implies, it's a subset of AI, but it really allows a transition from prior to that point where everything that a computer or machine did was essentially manually programmed in by a human. If this happens, you do that. And machine learning said, what if the machine could actually train itself, perhaps with coaching or supplementation from human inputs, but so that everything that the machine didn't have to be directly input by an actual human being. And that was a really transformative moment, and it enabled many, many advances over the next several decades. You may have heard of things like natural language processing, just allowing a machine to interpret and respond in ways like humans do, whether that's speech or written text, those types of things. Predictive analytics, logistics, there are a lot of applications, and a lot of what we're talking about today is built on that. So as I go through these steps, think of them as subsets or building blocks for each other. That went on for many decades, and then there was a breakthrough that is referred to as deep learning. And this is a machine learning technique, but it actually takes layers of machine learning and puts them on top of each other, if you will. These, what you'll hear, neural networks, they kind of simulate the way the human brain works. And that depth of layers allows you to do some things that you were never able to do before and really make amazing decisions and predictions. So an example of that might be something like Google Street View. We've probably all seen that. It's able to see that, hey, this is a human face. That person hasn't given consent. I'm going to blur their face out. Those types of things. And then what happened about around 2021, and really 2022 was a certain type of interface that came out that really blew it up, what is generative AI. And just when we're talking AI today, usually when people use the term AI, they're referring to generative AI rather than the broader subset. But it's important to understand these all connect, they can work together. Many times it's a combination of these different techniques that provide the best outcomes. And generative AI, the breakthrough there that was different from everything that had come before was, up until that point, you could call these recognizers or recognition technologies. They would see data, they would pick up on patterns, and then they would take an action, provide a prediction, do a recommendation, whatever the case may be. Generative AI says, I can actually create novel content, things that have never existed before, in a way that mimics very effectively how human thought and intelligence works. So ChatGPT was the first one to put that chat interface so that anybody without any technical training could experience it. And that was really, we've probably all seen the charts where the uptake of it and user counts have just dwarfed anything before that. So just to kind of put a bow on that, automation technologies are not always AI, but they can do many things that we want to get out of AI. AI is not always generative AI, but the combination of these various technologies in an intelligent way that's a good thing. These are tried and true technologies. They're proven out. They're very mature, and they can all be used together to automate decision making and help businesses process large, enormous amounts of data efficiently and effectively. That really moves the needle. So we shouldn't focus so much on which specific technology is behind the scenes. So a lot of times that combo, but what can we get out of it? What practical outcomes can it deliver for us and our clients?
That's an awesome way to dissect it, Jody, and I appreciate that because it is a big topic and people want to understand it and like where do they even start? They hear the word AI. There's a lot of unknowns, emotions. So wonderful way to dissect it. And questions, comments, put into the chat, the Q&A, if you'd like us to elaborate on anything. I guess I'll go to you, Itai. From your lens, what are those obstacles that organizations are dealing with when they're looking to implement an AI
That's a
tool?
great question, right? Because first of all, we need to understand, B2B, right? What's so complex quotation in B2B, right? And if it's compared to sort of other, let's say the B2C or the common retail sort of commerce. And I think the biggest, and I'm assuming the participant here coming from the space know that, but when we are selling in the business world, when we are doing all those type of transactions, first of all, we are probably selling to different type of segments, right? It's not the same, let's say retail, I'm selling watches to this sort of end consumer, everybody's seeing the same price, everybody's seeing the same experience. Here, every customer of ours has their own sort of unique pricing contract and so on. And more important, it's not one person that sells, we're talking about big organization with multiple divisions and so on. So there's also the sales side, right? So when we are looking at B2B, we're looking at big sales team, multiple territories, division, and so on, selling to different segments. So the entire process is different. Now, going back to sort of Jody, amazing explanation about AI. I think what happened, and I think we actually had this discussion before we launched the webinar. We see so many AI discussions, so many AI startups. Everybody wants to, okay, and we have this amazing thing, but how can we use it? How we can make things efficient out of that? And I think in the B2B space, I think it's more important to see what are the complexities that B2B merchants, if it's manufacturer, distributors, what are they currently struggling with, right? What is the current pain points? What can solve their efforts? And I think that's going to be the biggest thing where we can take those flows, processes. It could be just shoot some examples, right? I'm going to be maybe providing later on more examples, but in the B2B space, and we have manufacturer on the call, you're going to be receiving purchase orders, right? In email, in faxes, and so on. How can we use AI and maybe automate that flow, right? And we have customers who are calling us just to ask basic questions. How can we automate that? And I think that's going to be the main thing for, I think, the future is to identify those pain points in the B2B space, taking and leveraging, this amazing thing called AI and how we can sort of connect them together and make them efficient. So later on, I'm assuming going to be talking about some examples, but I think that's where, take this amazing technology, take this huge industry, B2B industry, and see where we can, merge them together.
Mhm.
So,
They marry very well together.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Matt, maybe you could go into like the biggest misconceptions you've seen when it comes to AI, because I know
Yeah.
I hear dinners and from our calls, but would love to get your point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the first misconception is that human beings are going to be replaced, right? That we're no longer going to need human beings to do our jobs. I think the promise of self-writing code and being able to talk to a chat agent that does everything for you without any human interaction. I think that's the primary misconception, that we're just there's no world where that exists. We still need human interaction. I would also say something that I'm personally close to is the promise of AI versus the practical execution of AI. So I think the promise of AI, and I would say I'm with Jody that this probably started 2 or 3 years ago with Chat GPT and all of the excitement and the buzz, and now suddenly, NVIDIA's stock price is 5 times what it was a couple of years ago because people are excited about that promise. I think the Metas of the world, the Amazons of the world, they're investing heavily and they may be able to bring to fruition the promise of AI. You're seeing a lot of complexity in what they're building, but then I think there's the rest of us, right? And I think the focus for the rest of us needs to be practical execution of AI, right? I think the misconception is AI is going to be able to do all of these things, but I think we need to take that down to a practical level, especially for the mid-market.
Mhm.
And Tiffany, I want to add to this because Matt, I like how you said it, where it's not here to replace, right, human beings, but I think it's here to make human beings' life easier and more efficient. And I think this is how we need to look at that, right? And And, you know, when I'm in my vision, you know, when I'm looking at those B2B processes, you might don't even need to know that there is AI involved, right? That things are going to be flowing, you know, smoothly. I like to give the example of a sales rep that logs into their sort of admin back office to figure out what they need to do today. And boom, you know, everything is listed out. This is the prospect you need to visit. Why? Because maybe they went downhill with their sales, and maybe something happened. Maybe they decided to select a different distributor and so on. So it's still going to be me, the sales rep, but you know, I'm going to have some tools that are going to help me make the right decision and more efficient decision, right? So I definitely agree with Matt about that claim.
I would just piggyback on what both Matt and Itai said there too. I think there's a lot of talk about how do we teach kids to use AI? How do we learn to use AI? And there may be a place for that in certain edge cases. But I think to both Matt and Itai's point, the real promise is I don't even think about the fact whether there's AI or not. It's just enhancing my experience, improving my productivity, making me more effective and efficient, and just making me more satisfied without ever knowing it. And I think a lot of that, at least for the foreseeable future, is going to come from what we're talking about today, where it becomes a part of the tool sets that we use day in and day out anyway, rather than going to a separate ChatGPT or Meta or whoever, Gemini, pick your favorite, and doing it consciously. It just becomes a part of how you do your life and business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Questions, comments put into the chat or the Q&A. Yeah, you brought up Meta as an example of like walled gardens. We talk a lot about that, of the big companies, Amazon, Google, Meta, of they want to keep the data in their own backyard, right? Their own walled garden, to be able to use that. That's gold, to understand the consumer, keep the consumer there. And I can't help but think, with, you know, working in B2B e-commerce for over 10 years, B2B is the original walled garden. You know, it's like the walls have always been up for B2B, and I just feel like there's so much opportunity there when it comes to AI, because you can harbor all that data behind the wall of with your customers. You know, you're not working in this vast consumer pool. You are working with a group that you have a lot of history on, and you can garner a lot more data about them and make things much more efficient for your team and churn by understanding and utilizing AI tools. So I just think it's an exciting time for B2B. And I don't know, I'll put money on it, but I told E-Time, like, I think B2B will utilize AI faster than direct to consumer, because I think there's less obstacles and barriers and more opportunity to be able to control the process and the situation. So questions, comments put into the chat. I'd love to know, looking at e-commerce, Matt, you know, where is AI currently transforming?
Yeah, I think the most obvious example, and I think the example that I would have that we've got the most relevant experience, has been personalization, search, ranking of products, recommendations for users, which, kind of tagging on to what you say, you know, the fact that we're in the B2B space and these are known users, these are users that we've had long-term relationships. I think the complexity of being able to put the right product in front of the right person at the right time is, I think that's a lot less complicated with B2B, because we know who you are. You are a known entity and one that we've had a relationship with. So I think the first call out is really search and ranking products and product recommendations. And you have tools like SearchSpring and Algolia and Fast Simon that have been utilizing AI and I would say in a mature way for a number of years, even before, you know, this recent AI boom. I think those tools have been optimized and maturing for some time. Some exciting stuff that we're seeing is content creation. So, you know, you're no longer dealing with a blank slate. You're no longer, you know, sitting as a content writer or merchandiser and trying to figure out, all right, what am I going to write that's compelling to the end user? So you've got AI tools that can't replace you, but they certainly give you a good starting point, and you can continue to optimize that content using AI. And then taking that a step further, when you're using an AI tool, that AI tool is aware not only how to write compelling content for someone like Jody or Itai or myself, they're writing compelling content for crawlers. So that content is optimized not only for the human experience, but also for the tools that are crawling your site and ranking your site and understanding what your product data is all about. We're seeing automation that processes analytics in ways that we've never seen before, that can essentially provide you a summary of what your users are doing, the behaviors, just processing your Google or Adobe Analytics. And then taking that a step further, I've seen some promising A/B testing services that interpret the results of user interaction and programmatically adapt based on those user behaviors. So it's no longer a human decision where someone can, review the results of an A/B test and make a decision. It's AI that can actually evolve and change the layout on the fly. And then finally, since ChatGPT was introduced, I think we can all see that AI is being leveraged for chat and for helping the user journey and asking questions in a natural way. You're not, picking options and selecting from a list of radio buttons. You're having a conversation. And so I think that is extremely transformative to commerce.
And we do have a question in regards to the personalization. I think this is a great question. How may AI-driven personalization best improve the customer service in B2B e-commerce, especially given a longer cycle and complex purchasing processes? So that's a great question. It is a longer sales cycle.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead, Ethan.
And I agree. And that's, by the way, going back, Tiffany, to what you said, right? If we have all the data, if we have all the past orders, if we have all the past history, if we can actually track all the different, if I'm looking at, let's say, the typical, let's say, long sales cycle, if we can start seeing how different sales rep, how different, reps sort of interacted with the customer, what did they offer, multiple back and forth quotes, negotiation, and so on. That's where, once again, we can sort of identify a pattern of how a sales rep, how a certain team are selling versus how that specific customer usually approve the quote and so on. So that's where, once again, it's an amazing question. I don't think there is a solution right now, but that's where I think we're going to be ending up going, where you as a sales rep, you want to have all the different sort of points or interaction points already sort of organized for you. You're just going to be start triggering them as part of the pre-sale. But that's where, once again, if we have access to all the data, if we have all the history from previous engagement with that customer, then we can have sort of the path sort of automatically designed for us, and just we need to execute it as the team. That's sort of how I look at it.
Yeah, you have the predictability then, because you do own that process and saw that customer journey, because you're owning that on the back end of your gated B2B experience. So that's a good segue then, and to go into the difference when it comes to me, I'll shoot this to you, Jody, is how does AI function differently with direct-to-consumer versus B2B?
Yeah, well, I think there are a couple of factors here. One, I think you've heard the term big data for a long time, or information overload. And to Itai's point, it's very difficult to distill that down into something that's useful. And AI can really put us ahead of the curve in that way. Some of the pure automation probably falls more on the side of B2C, just because you're talking to these individual consumers. They may be making emotional decisions for buying. There may be one time you, of course, want repeat business, but that B2B is so relationship driven. The type of information that's most relevant to you to be surfaced at the right moment is going to be different depending on which market you're in. So I think it really, some of that's future state, but some of it's very much today. There's some other things with the aspects of billing and invoicing and how those things are handled and processed that are a little different. And I defer to Itai and Matt on some of that specifically, but those are some things that come to mind right off the top.
Examples.
And Tiffany, I want to, and back to what Jody said, and I think, once again, this question is an amazing question that we're going to receive, because if you're looking at a typical day of life of a sales rep, let's say I got a potential very good opportunity, and I have my flow that technically I memorize it, but maybe I don't have it scripted somewhere, but I'm usually sending, a quote with a certain margin just to make sure, I'm still hitting a certain goal. But then I'm getting sort of a response that's still not enough. Give us maybe a better price for tier pricing. So I'm lowering a bit, the margin and so on. That's where, once again, if we'll have this access to this, amount of data, when I'm logging in, I'm immediately going to have like this sort of support telling me, hey, usually you are providing this amount of margin, this amount of discount, but this customer usually buys in this level, this amount. So once again, this is where the process for me can be way more efficient. So, but I agree, Joe, exactly as you said, we have so much information currently, especially, B2B customers, tons of history of orders, tons of history of quotes, opportunities, and how we can now start defining different automated routes. That's a definitely good point. Yeah.
I think something I would also add to that is that B2C has always been self-serve. So, I mean, when you're in the B2C, when you're in the e-com space, you've always been self-serve. You've been searching for products. You've been trying to find what you're looking for. You're making your purchases. And AI helps in B2C because it's putting the right products in front of you, the things that you're most likely, based on your demographic, you're most likely to convert on. With B2B, I think you're in a different world where, and I think a lot of merchants can probably relate to this, that it hasn't always been self-service. In fact, getting people to adapt to the online catalog can always have its complexities. And people just prefer to pick up their phone and talk to the guy that they usually talk to, get the deal that they can get from him, send the information over. The preference is simply, let me talk to my sales rep because that's the guy that I've been talking to for the last 10 years. And so I think a problem that we're trying to solve with AI within B2B commerce is, no, let's actually use the catalog. Let's use the online capabilities of the store because it's going to be faster and give you a better result as the end user. And obviously for the B2B merchant, their goal is to free up their resources to do what they need to do to make more money, not do the day-to-day, putting in the orders and taking the phone calls and talking directly to the customer. And I feel like that's a different problem that you're solving in B2B versus B2C.
Mm-hmm. That's such a great point.
Tiffany, and I think that's the key word, adoption, right? That's the key word. That's something that I'm bumping so many times with our customers. We launched our B2B e-commerce portal, right? It's there, it's live. Now what? How do we convince the customer to start logging in and buy, right? That's amazing point, Matt. And really that's where I think, and that's where we took it, but that's I think where the future of AI and B2B should go. Solve for those adoption issues. Make it worth for your customers, or at least make them understand that working in an AI environment will be similar, if not more efficient and faster than what they currently used to. They get better results. I like to give the example of, let's say you are buying different fasteners or bolts or whatnot, but you're not sure exactly which one you need. Yeah, you can call the sales rep. They can start opening spec sheets, right? And figure out together with you on a 15-minute call what exactly you need. But if we can feed the AI with all those spec sheets, and I can immediately tell them what the application I'm looking for, then I can get a result immediately. So I agree, adoption, right? Adoption is the key. If we can fight adoption and use AI to make the adoption easier and faster, I think that's the key point.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it is a beautiful thing when we onboarded our B2B platform, getting the sales reps to input their side deals, all those deals that were made over the phone over the years that I could never analyze, like what was, our margin on that or why. There was like a curve there for the adoption, but we got there and be able to have that data and properly analyze it, pure gold, amazing for our organization. Some questions here, keep them coming. Can we touch briefly on the need for data consolidation, quality, and management as it relates to the quality of AI?
Perfect question. Yeah, so this is an amazing question. So I'll share it from our side. Obviously, when we started, developing solution on AI, we had multiple models that we had to sort of evaluate, right? From open source model, I'll quickly give the differences between an open source to those that are sort of publicly available, like let's say ChatGPT, obviously different version. But the idea of an open source LLM is that you're taking a base model and you technically continue training it in your own sort of isolated environment. The problem is that, and that's obviously the biggest models there are things like, let's say, Anthropic Claude or ChatGPT 4o and all those big models, that they are way more accurate in things, right? But then you touch an amazing point, right? Because now we have this dilemma. We can work in a closed environment on our open source, but yes, then you're going to have some issues of consistency. That the term that is being used is sort of the AI is hallucinating and giving you weird results sometimes, right? So then you say, okay, so I will work with those more consistent, faster, better solution. but then yes, you're going to be you have to expose data in order for them to compile and process. So that's a big dilemma, right? There's no a clear answer for that. But then this is where each customer will have to sort of figure out, is it worth for them to do that, right? Now, there are some policies of different LLMs over there that, oh, yes, we have our enterprise model. We're not going to be using your data for training. It's going to be only for you, close for you. How accurate it is, I don't know. You mentioned a few names, Tiffany, Meta, and some others. We know what happened there sometimes. So I agree. It's a big dilemma. But that's where, once again, efficiency versus, maybe more secured and so on. But I agree that's a big dilemma. That's a big question.
It's a big question, and one that I don't think there's necessarily the perfect answer for. And again, that's where I tend to take a skeptical view, and I say there's the promise of AI, and there's what companies like Meta or Amazon are doing, and it's big picture, a lot of money, a lot of resources invested in making that work. And then there's the practical application of AI, which I think in our space, in the rest of us, the rest of the world, the non-multi-billion-dollar companies, they're having to use AI in much more practical ways.
And Tiffany, one example, I think, from real life, from the B2B space that will really show you the example, right? So one common pain points that we hear from customers is, as I mentioned, we're receiving POs, purchase orders from our customers. They sending it to us from their different ERPs, different templates, different layouts. Believe it or not, I still hear faxes coming in, obviously through email, but somebody faxes the purchase order. And now the merchant have to figure out, okay, somebody need to type it, somebody needs to input it in their ERP. So we have companies that actually develop themselves a machine learning, back to Joe's explanation, a machine learning way to sort of learn and train where are the different elements of the purchase order is. You're keeping it in your own sort of closed server, so there's no data or security issue. But the accuracy that I was hearing is somewhere between 30 to 40% accuracy, meaning many times the PO was not really captured the right way. And now not only that you need to manually push the numbers, now you need to figure out what was wrong, right? And that's a lot of overhead. Now, we sort of when we develop our solution, we use a public sort of LLM, which, once again, there's the dilemma. We are exposing some information, but the accuracy over there is sort of 90%. So back to what Matt said, you will have to make the decision. I saved a lot of overhead of my sales teams. I saved so many potential errors and mistakes, but I had to share with a third party that claims to sort of be private and secured information to get their sort of support. So I agree that there's no real, the right decision here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great example. Questions, comments as we get to the end here, put them into the chat. Going back to you, Itai, can you give what is a typical persona of somebody that's involved in B2B e-commerce?
Okay, that's a great question, right? So I always like to divide it into the two elements, right? Because I always see B2B not only the customer-facing side, but obviously the sales team, right? The sales enablement flows, somebody receiving a request for quote, somebody negotiating a quote, somebody managing the team, customer support, right? It's also part of it, right? I might not be doing sales, but if somebody has an issue with a broken pallet that they received, so I think these are the two sort of main areas that we need to focus when we are looking at the future of how AI is going to be blended there. And by saying customer, let's be clear. In the B2B, a customer is a company, right? It's an organization. So it's going to be their entire hierarchy of roles. From a person that his job is just to create a shopping list, create a purchase order, and approve it by their manager before it's actually being submitted as an order. And from the other side, once again, the same hierarchy. So I got a request for quote. This specific customer planning to buy 100 pallets of a certain item, and they negotiate to get a better quote. I need to get it approved by my manager, by my regional sales manager. So these are the two sort of main personas that I think are sort of reflecting the entire B2B processes that we need to take into consideration when we are looking at future sort of AI solution and any sort of B2B functionalities, right? So customer facing, organization with multiple hierarchies, and the sales team from the merchant side, hierarchy with multiple teams as well. Yeah.
Do you tend to see best practice as you get a group of maybe those closest customers of that org to be able to do beta testing with them and get their input on what's best for the portal or the platform that you're building?
So that's exactly how we address it. So that's a perfect question, because that's exactly how we did it. So when we brought our beta AI functionalities, we selected multiple customers that sort of we felt that they are the right candidates. Once again, not only customers that have a very engagement customer database, but also they have a sales team that's using our platform to sort of create orders and quotes. And they selected their top 3 sort of customers. And why you want to select those customers? Because first of all, obviously it's beta, and then we're going to be some mistakes, right? You're working with AI, but then, you know, that's where you can trust them to get the right feedback, right? So I'll give you an example. One of the solution was an AI agent that sort of help a customer to figure out what they need to buy, get some information about past orders. So that's where, once again, you're going to this customer, you're going to explain we're going to be using an AI. So be gentle in a way, right? And if for some reason something wrong, you can always have access to your setup. So I think that's the best practice. From the platform point of view, select your top 3 customer candidates to do the beta testing of your features. And from their side, select your B2B top 3 customers to test those functionality. Yeah, that was an exact definition of how it should be. Yeah.
Awesome. Matt, we go to you and just maybe give your perspective on how does AI tie into sales efficiency when it comes to e-commerce?
Yeah, go ahead. Sure.
I was going to say, because I just remember my team being very reluctant at first because they have those, like we had said now numerous times in this hour, relationships. No, you know, they know the kids of the customer and they've gone, you know, met for happy hour or dinners or whatever. So to say that scared them. And so if you could elaborate on that, like how to get around maybe that potential obstacle, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ideal is to build capability that encourages the consumer, the company, to engage with the catalog, right? That's the idea. So the ideal environment is that you have tools, AI or not, that really make it more simple for the end user to engage with the catalog. So they're talking to the AI based chat rep, and they're getting information about their orders or stock or what they need, and you're simplifying the process. So you mentioned this, Itai, you mentioned this feature where we're processing, you know, POs that come in, and it's like I want to place an order, and it's you don't have to go and call a rep and have a conversation with them and provide your details, and they manually key that in, because that's taking that rep away from high touch sales that ultimately makes your organization more money. So what I see as the success criteria for AI and increasing sales efficiency is simply that they're using the catalog instead of picking up the phone and calling the rep and busying, you know, the rep with these mundane tasks that now he's not able to sell. Now he's not able to deal with high touch accounts where he's making real money. He's dealing with these transactional sales that really are better dealt with in the catalog. That's the success criteria for AI and B2B as far as I'm concerned.
Because that B2B customer shops like direct to consumer, because they are off hours customer in the retail space. So they're expecting
Absolutely.
that same experience professionally.
Absolutely.
Questions, comments put into the chat as we round out. How about we'll go back to you, Matt, on complex process. So let's say POs, quotes, kind of those like ones that, yeah, the long sales cycle, or the ones that have never been input in the ERP because they've been this like verbal handshake. You know, how does AI impact those?
Oh, I think it's able to interpret what you're providing and provide accurate data, right? It's able to identify the pricing. It's got access to the data in the ERP. It's got access to the price list. It's able to handle the quotes programmatically. And there may still be some human touch involved, and certainly recommended to review and confirm what winds up happening. But in terms of comparing what we've had in the past versus something that's able to process natural language, I think you just get more accurate results.
And Tiffany, I'll once again, a good example. If I will call my sales rep and ask him, when was the last time I ordered that, 10 pallets of product X? Now the sales rep will have to sort of browse order history, log one by one, because there is not really a clear query of X pallets of that product, search, give me the result, right? And back to what Matt said, now AI have faster way to sort of understand the question and pull the right data to give you the result. So still working with the human being, but the tool is sort of to quickly get the response. And I think that's the best example.
Instant access to data and instant response, as opposed to the amount of time it takes to manually provide those details.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. All right, final topic here is the customer journey is always a hot one. So looking at the B2B customer journey, how does the AI tool guide that customer journey?
So I'll just start by saying that it's a big question, right? And we, I would say a year ago, we actually started to evaluate, now that we, have so much access to customer experience, what is the customer visiting? Are they really logging into a homepage and looking at their, featured product and so on, right? What is the most important thing for them in their journey, especially, in the B2B space? And we definitely see a lot of sort of traffic around their past order, quickly digest order. So if it's just me drag and dropping a PO, drag and dropping some type of product lists, versus, browsing to find what product do I need, right? So that's where the journey is in the B2B is a bit different than, let's say, the retail that, I want to buy, let's say, something. So I'm going to be doing some research and, I'm going to compare this to this. I like this one and I'm going to be buying it. So that's totally different, right? So I think customer journey here is to the two sides. One, accessing data, back to what Matt said, right? I want to get access to my past orders, understand what's going on, quickly they push a new order, but also, in this case is eventually communicating with my sales team, right, with my sales rep through that platform. So I would say these are the two main flows, and everything is a process, right? It's an order. I'm gonna go back and forth. Maybe a product does not exist. Maybe I want to get a better price. So I think that's where we're seeing the different flows in the B2B space.
Good. Matt, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's similar to my prior feedback in that you've provided self-service tools that are powered by AI, so they've got access to data, and it reduces reliance on sales reps. I think that's been, the consistent complaint that I've heard is that I just can't get people to adopt and do what they need to. And if you've got AI with access to the same data that a sales rep has access to, but can instantaneously process that data and provide the information that a user needs, it guides the entire journey. We know what fleet of vehicles they have, for example, what parts they may need. We know what frequency they use to order those parts. We know what to recommend. We have the answers to the questions. You don't have to pick up the phone and dial a phone number. You're getting instant access to the right answers and the right data. And I think that guides the entire process.
I mean, you could get to the point where you're actually getting ahead of it and giving them recommendations via
Absolutely.
email blast of, hey, you're due for a reorder or for a change out or whatever it may be. So very exciting. Jody,
I
how
think,
about you?
sure. I think it's important to keep in mind that we talk a lot about efficiencies and speed is important, but the actual quality of the experience is enhanced through the use of these technologies. And now it's important, just touching on the question from a few minutes ago about garbage in, garbage out. You do need to evaluate your data. You need to clean it up. You need to have ongoing data management. That's true regardless. Frankly, that's true even if I bring in a new human sales rep and they're reading the old notes and they're wrong, right? I need to make sure that stuff is accurate. But it becomes that much more important when we're automating it. But it really, we find a simple example when we have had to change sales reps in the recent past, it is a totally better experience for the organization and the contact that we interface with, because they now have this understanding of the entire history. rather than just what they know from having my intro conversation with you. The tools do that automatically, whether there's a sales rep involved or not, and that can be client and business and industry specific. So just the experience is so enhanced by this, along with the efficiency.
One concern that I want to raise here, Tiffany, and I'm an AI guy. You know, I like AI, and I think that's the future. But I think you're starting to see it today. You can start, you know, identifying who actually used, you know, ChatGPT when they wrote down the email, right? Who used an AI to do that, right? You're starting to see the common pattern. And going back to the experience, I think Matt said it at the beginning. In the B2B space, customers like the sort of more personal approach, right? And I think this is where we want to see how we can keep it, right? Because it's going to be obvious to me that, oh, that's even if they try to show that it's a real agent, that's not a real agent, because it's going to be the same sort of, you know. So I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see where we're going with this route, because how do you bring efficiency, bring automation, but you also making it sort of non-generic, like we're starting to see it right now, right? With so many things being using, you know, and generating from the same sources, and you're starting to see the same pattern.
And we all know it's moving very fast. There's a lot of opportunity, but a lot of change is happening. So we'll close at Itai with you from your lens. You know, what are those exciting tools that are on the horizon that people should be aware of?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. And once again, you know, we came from the point of adoption is a pain point for our customers. How can we solve it, right? And the two main things that we just released are, one is capturing PO. Doesn't matter what template they are, faxes, PDFs, the logo is on the right, the logo is on the bottom, doesn't matter, because with AI, it scans it like a human being, right? But it's not only scanning in and bringing it. The second piece is really a sales rep now has the opportunity to see what was just imported and have alerts of, hey, this price do not match the prices. That the payment term that they have on the PO is not the payment term that they have in file. So you can have a very efficient way to validate that. So everything that it comes to digesting orders from different, you know, source point, that's one thing. And the second thing is agent, but not agent for the sales team for now, but it's back to, you know, agent that makes the experience for the customer that browsing our catalog more efficient, and once again, not only asking, as you said, getting recommendation of what product to buy, but any type of information about my unique pricing, what distribution center is have this available, how much inventory levels they have. Just create an order with an agent, draft it, and you can decide as a merchant to immediately pass it to your AP, or have the sales team getting it first, validating what was just created with an AI agent. And then, so these are the two main places that we focus, and looking in the future eventually is going to be also an entire, you know, agent and support to the sales team that's managing the back office. But that's where we're at currently.
Very cool. Very exciting stuff. Love it. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Itai, Jody, Matt. We lost you, but hopefully he's okay. He might come back. But definitely appreciate your expertise and what you brought to the community today. And thank you all for joining. We definitely encourage follow-up conversations with the Oro Commerce team and the Hammer Commerce team. They are awesome partners and are experts in what they do. Fantastic information today. So with that, it is a wrap. Thank you all for joining. Happy Wednesday. If you're in Florida, stay safe. We are thinking about you. And Itai, stay safe. Take care, bud.
Thank you. Thank you.
Till next
Thanks
time.
very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye.